So we're going outside of the country. So the TCC, we're represented in 27 countries, and we are going to one probably near and dear to your heart. We're going to Helen in Portugal.
Hey, all
Hello.
right.
Hi, Dr. Rebelo.
All right, awesome.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. This is
Okay,
so good.
good. Thank you so much. I love this. And hi, Scott. Thank you so much for bringing Dr. Rebelo on. On my question, I find this very interesting today and valuable. My question is about, I was actually on this Be On TV bootcamp, and they taught us your mess is your message. And I have my story, but I always had kind of, discord with this mess thing. It didn't resonate with me. And I thought, well, I have to tell some, horrible story or something that I've been through. So I think you might have already answered me. So it's not necessarily that it has to be some tragic story, you came from this to this. It can be anything. It just needs to resonate with you, right?
Yes, that's right. That the key is your assignment of meaning to the moment. So it doesn't need to, so this is a really good, I know you're not asking this question, but the question that I hear in your commentary is this: is something too private, and what do I do with that? A little bit. Is that what I'm hearing a little bit?
Yes,
or no?
yes.
Okay,
yes.
okay. I want to make sure I get it right. So like, for instance, if I had somebody the other day who, actually he's in the book to reference as a story. His father was a professor, and his father didn't get tenure. And it's okay for me to say this because he allowed me to use parts of his story as part of the release. And his father didn't get tenure as a professor, and then inherited some money and went into financial planning. Okay, well, he can't tell that story to people because it sounds like his dad, wasn't a good professor, right? So how do you shrink that story, right, to make it work? So he said, look, my dad was a professor, tenure was difficult. At the same time, he ended up inheriting some money, and he started researching because that's what professors do. And he realized that nobody had a good answer in terms of how to invest his money. So he went down to Wall Street. So that's how he tells his story. Now, my client, this person that I'm referring to, is a financial planner, wealth manager who took over his dad's practice and just merged it with another publicly traded company. But he still has to tell his story because he has accounts and clients. So his story comes with him. It sounds a little bit different over time. And he has more blue dots, is what I call them in the book, formative experiences, that can still be placed on the framework that is shared within the book. So think about this as an apparatus for organizing your story over time, and as being a philosophy for living. So that you just, hey, this thing kind of happens as a blue dot that might replace this other thing, because you're a dynamic human being. You're out there living your life. So we call it flattening when you leave out parts of, like you would as a kid when you wanted to get away with something, right? In school, you wouldn't tell the whole story, right? So you flatten it so that it's contextually sensible to share, and that it doesn't cancel out the value that you're trying to inject into the story by sharing the blue dot in the first place. And for this particular client, right, he wanted to share that he's got research in his bones, and this started to preserve his family's money, and they've continued to use research to preserve other people's family money. And so, but if he just said that, that's very flat. That's nothing. We've been around for 68 years, and a financial planner. My dad started the practice, when we got some money, and been an 18-year CFP, 22 years in the business, including a stint with ABC LMNOP. It's crap. Everybody says that, right? So it's really important for him to share part of his lived experiences, but then to also not give too much of the detail where it cancels out the value. Okay. Is that okay of an answer? Do you want more or less?
Yes. No, that makes a lot of sense. So it's not about, because I always thought, I don't see a point for everybody to tell their sad stories, because everybody's got these sad stories. But I think, at some point on the journey, I misunderstood that whole thing where I thought, it has to be some kind of a tragic thing, that you go through to have some kind of an impactful story. But it's not, it's not how it is. It's not the point. The point is the message. And then, as you say, having that correct order that it does resonate with the audience. There's no point in telling just the story.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. And I think that sometimes too, something that I'm thinking, I was just writing a note down, was that people sometimes think that just because somebody is a provocateur of a storyteller, that you should copy them. And that's very dangerous. So that's like, you know, I used to drive a lot of Volkswagens, and Volkswagens, they would always say Achtung, you know, like morning, right? Achtung, baby, if you're an 80s kid. So you don't want to have this sort of practice of emulating other people's stories, because it's very fake sounding. And even if we don't get rewarded to say that it's fake, we know that it's fake. And people won't take the second or third meeting. Suddenly a client goes and MIA, you feel like you're stalking them. That's right, because the story wasn't provocative enough. It wasn't well rehearsed. And I think of it this way because of, you know, working with a lot of sports people over the years and pro sports. You don't step into the batter's box without practicing like wild. Yet we continue to step into the batter's box of telling our story, and we don't record ourselves. We don't recraft our story. We don't analyze. Pros can't wait to look at film. They love it. They look at film, they look at technology as like a way to see a different angle to better their skills. You can be an ever better storyteller, but you need to be technical about it. The way you hit a ball at 13, hey kid, be a hitter, doesn't work when you're 15, doesn't work when you're 22, certainly doesn't work when you're 26. But we know that we can have deliberate practice. But like I said at the beginning, you can't show up to a gym or a racetrack and just run because you want to be a great runner. You can't just throw kettlebells around because you want to be really fit like some pro athlete. You have to have a methodology. Then just master the methodology. See, I look at my contribution as just building the methodology that you can just steal and overlay in your life. And if you get really great at it, you'll actually, I often say to people, record yourself answering the question, tell me about yourself. Record it on your phone and go do it right after this call. Read the book or talk to somebody who's read the book, and then do it again. And you tell me how great of a storyteller you've become.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Yes.
Helen, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
We're going to